Hey guys, today I'll show you how I made this composite using Adobe Photoshop. Here we are in Photoshop. I have my Mustang image loaded in, mountains, and the fog that we'll use later. Fair disclaimer, the image of the Mustang and the mountains were edited in Lightroom prior to this, but today we're going to focus on the Photoshop aspect. So, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is clean up some of the Mustang reflection, so I'll show you a couple of methods I use to do so. The first one I like to use is content aware, so go ahead and make your selection around what you want to clean up. There's a little bit of this reflection of one of the parking stripes here, so let's go ahead and make our selection around it. Once you have your selection made, go ahead and click Command Enter and Shift Delete. Make sure you're on the layer, and go ahead and select Content Aware. Hit Command D, the little reflection right over here. Go ahead and do the same thing, make your selection. Go ahead and click Command Enter, Shift Delete, and OK. Command D to deselect. Another tool I like to use is the Spot Healing Brush tool. With this one, you just go ahead and paint over the area, and it's cleaned up just like that. Here I'm going to use the Clone Stamp tool. Hold Option to select a source point, and then from this, just go ahead and paint over the area. Select a source point again, paint again. I'll do it one more time and then paint over the area. Up at the top, of course, you can see my settings I'm using while using this tool. Something useful for cleaning up areas and making selections or just using any brush tool is if you select one point, hold Shift and select another point. It'll use that tool in a straight line from both selected points. Sometimes when you're using the Content Aware tool, you'll have to make selections multiple times to get everything looking correct. And even then, you'll have to come in and make some manual adjustments like I'm doing right here. Here's what the Mustang looked like before, and here's what it looks like with the corrections. Now that we have the reflections cleaned up, let's go ahead and make a couple more adjustments to the car. First thing I'm going to do is make a selection around the window. Once you have your selection around the window made, go ahead and click Command J to separate that into a new layer. Let's call it Window. Now we're going to add a brightness adjustment layer. Hold Option and then clip it to only the window. Select the brightness icon, and we're just going to go ahead and decrease that brightness. I think right around -40 looks good. Let's go ahead and make a selection around the hood vent. Select the Mustang layer, Command Enter, Command J. Go ahead and hold Option and drag down this brightness adjustment layer to right above the hood vent. Hold Option, clip it onto that layer. Let's call this hood vent. Now if you double tap brightness or reset it to default settings, -70 on the brightness and about 40 on the contrast. Works well on this right here. Last adjustment I'm going to make is turning on this little turn signal right here. Let's go ahead and select the Mustang layer and make your selection. When using the pen tool, if you add a point between two existing points and hold Command, you can drag that point around to add some curvature to it. Go ahead and make your selection. We'll call this one turn signal. Go ahead and double click just to the right of the name to open the layer style menu. Go ahead and select color overlay. And we're going to change the blend mode to color dodge. We're going to choose an orangish color and just play around with it until I find one that works well. This color right here works pretty well, so let's go ahead and click OK and get out of here. Command 0 will bring you out to the full screen of the canvas, but let's zoom in a little bit here. You can see the turn signal down there, the hood vent, and of course, the window. Let's go ahead and group all these in one layer, and we'll call it Mustang. And let's take a look at the before and after so far. Here's the image from only Lightroom, and here's it with the Photoshop adjustments. Moving on to the next step, we're going to mask out the Mustang layer and place the mountains behind it. So go ahead and select the Mustang layer. We're going to use the pen tool to make the selection. And as we're making the selection, keep on the edge as close as possible. Once you have your selection made, go ahead and click Command Enter and select the mask icon down here. And now let's go ahead and place the mountains behind it. One thing I will recommend when sizing up an image is converting it to a smart object to help maintain the image's quality. Let's go ahead and place this below the Mustang. Go ahead and size up the image, hold Option, and drag out until it snaps to the side. Click Enter, and then slide it up to the top. Now let's go back down to the Mustang layer. Let's zoom in on the edge. And this edge is pretty sharp right now, but no need to worry about that. Go ahead and click on the layer mask and just increase that feather ever so slightly. We're going to go to about 1.2 pixels. You can see it just adds a very soft feather to the edge. Let's go ahead and add a curves layer to both of these. Once you have one, hold Option and drag it above the Mustang. Hold Option once again to clip each to their respective layer. And at the very top, let's add a hue and saturation layer and go ahead and turn it all the way down. Turning off all the colors is best when you want to match the light. So let's just remove that distraction. Let's go ahead and head over to the mountains curve adjustment layer and just slowly slide this down. Although that looks a little too dark, so let's slide it to the left. I think the mountains are okay, but I think these trees could be a little bit lighter, so let's bring this side up. That's way too much right there, of course, so let's slowly drop it down. And right there looks about good. Take a look at the before and after. I think there could use a little more contrast in the trees, so let's go ahead and select this tool right here. And now zoom in and sample from just right about here and slowly drag down. See, it makes that area just darker. Now without and with matches the image so much better. Let's head up to the Mustang layer and play around with these curves. Once again, turn off the hue and saturation. Just go ahead and play around with it, see what works best. Let's see how this one looks. Not a huge difference, but I believe it does make the image look a little better. I do like these mountains in the background. I believe the light and the color is correct, but I think it's just a little too saturated, so let's go ahead and come down to the mountains. Let's add a hue saturation layer right above it. On second thought, let's actually use this one right here. The vibrance, however you pronounce it. Hold Option, clip it to the curves, and then of course that also affects the mountains as well. Let's go ahead and slide down this one a little bit. Let's see how this looks. It takes out just a little bit of the color, but definitely helps it. As far as color and light go, I believe the image is pretty much done, but I want to add some more atmosphere and a couple more aspects to the image to create a better composition here. Let's go ahead and use this fog layer I have. We're going to use it in two places, so let's go ahead and click Command J. We'll call this one Fog Background, and we'll call this one Fog Foreground. Turn off that one for a second. Hold Command. Let's slide this right down about there. Now hold Option and let's size it out to the side. Bring it down a little bit and let's rotate it ever so slightly. And we will size it up again holding Option. Now let's go ahead and create a mask on this one. Now I don't want any of it on this edge right here. Let's go ahead and paint that away. Of course, black paints away and white adds. And also I want to get rid of it on the car, so let's go ahead and make the brush a bit larger and turn the hardness down all the way. If you hold Control and Option and slide to the right, it'll increase the diameter, left decreases, up decreases the hardness, and down increases the hardness. Let's go ahead and paint away. Command 0 to bring us into focus on the canvas. That's what it looks like with and without the fog right there. Also have this fog that I would like to use, so let's go ahead and hold Option and size this up to the size of the artboard, canvas, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to place this one right below the Mustang group. That way it's behind the edge right here. And hold Command, and I'm going to see how this looks. This one I think I'm going to leave right about here. And I'm actually going to hold Shift, bring out this side a little bit, and Shift and bring out this side a little bit more. Let's mask this one out as well. And I'm going to take it away from the top of the trees so you can see them poking through. Just going to slightly brush on them just to reveal the tops of the trees as if they're peeking out from the fog. Without the fog and with the fog, let's go ahead and add a little bit of more fog though. So let's go ahead and create a new layer. Let's call it Fog Mountains and Trees. Now in this one, we're going to create our own fog. So if you hold Option while you have your brush selected, sample from the background a light gray color. Let's actually sample one from the clouds, maybe in this little valley up here. Let's go ahead and change the flow down to 10% on the brush. And now we just paint. Go ahead and change the size of the brush. And remember, the more in one area you paint, the denser that fog is going to be in that region. Let's make it a little bit smaller and kind of make the fog look like it's going up the mountain a little bit, up here in this valley. Maybe be a little more conservative with it going up that valley. And, of course, remember we are behind the Mustang layer, so nothing down here. It's actually getting painted on top of the Mustang. And let's add a little bit more below this tree line. If you hold Shift It'll drag from one point to the other. And let's just add a little bit more. Let's take a look at it without the fog layer we just added, and with it. For our next step, let's go ahead and create another new layer. Let's call this one Dodge and Burn, because we will be dodge and burning. Hit Shift Delete on that new layer. I'm not sure if this is an option for everyone, so I'm going to show you how to get the 50% gray. Go ahead and click color. Now once you have the color, go ahead and all the way over to the left, and the brightness, go to 50%, which should be 80, 80, 80. Click OK. Go to the blend modes and select overlay. Now once we're on here, we're going to be using the dodge and burn tool, which is also the shortcut O. Now I have the range selected at the highlights, exposure to the 10. On the burn tool, I have the range set the midtones and exposure also on 10%. Dodge brightens, well, let's start by brightening. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Simply any area you believe should be bright, go ahead and brighten. Here's what the car looks like with the dodging adjustments, before and after. Let's go ahead and switch over to the burn tool and darken up some areas. Let's see what the car looks like with the burning adjustments. You can see how much depth and contrast that adds to the car right there. And of course, the dodging and burning isn't limited to only the car. We can do it to the entire image, of course. So let's go ahead and make that brush a little bit larger. Remember, hold Control and Option, then just drag to the right to increase the diameter of the brush. Right now we are on the burn, so let's go ahead and darken up this foreground a little bit. And let's go over here to the tree lines. For this one, we're just gonna add one point right here. Come to the other side, add another point, but when you add that point, make sure you're holding Shift, and it'll draw a straight line there. See? Let's also add a little bit to the peak of the mountains. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more to the fog using the dodge. And let's see what the entire image looks like with and without the dodge and burning. Command 0 to bring us to the canvas. One thing that helps with any composite is adding adjustment layers to the entire image, whether that's here in Photoshop or in Lightroom, but of course we're staying in Photoshop right now, so let's go ahead and add a curve to the very top of the image. And for this one, let's use the tool right here. Select one of the dark areas and just decrease that ever so slightly. And one of the bright areas, it's more of a mid-tone right there, but we'll increase it anyway. And then let's see what this looks like. Brightens the image ever so slightly. Add a little more contrast, maybe right here and up here even. And here it is with and without the curves layer. Let's go ahead and add another curves layer. And for this one, go ahead and drag down a point in the middle. I promise this will make sense. Go ahead and select the mask, grab your brush, increase the size, and then increase that hardness all the way. And let's just add a point right here in the middle. Make sure the flow's on 100%. Add a point in the middle. Now, while you have the layer mask selected, press Command T. And now, hold Shift, and we'll bring this up to the top here. Hold Shift, bring it down to the bottom. Let's hold Shift and bring this out past the image, this one back. And let's size this down a little bit. Hold Option and bring that down. Hit Enter, head over here to the mask properties, and increase that feather. 513.5 looks good. And there you go. Let's check out the before and the after. And there you have it. If you liked the video, go ahead and leave a like, a comment, and even consider subscribing. And of course, also follow me over on Instagram, where I post most of my pictures on a daily basis. And until next time, peace.